Hi, you've reached my deep dive technical review, which was this week supposed to be slides, but unfortunately is not slides. I am using the slide. And I will tell you, by the way, when you do get to see the slides, I'm going to make a video with all the slides and all the talk track. When you do get to see the slides, there's some pretty cool graphics in it. I've spent a lot of time on the graphics for the book, probably more time than I should have. But way more time on the content of the book than I did on the graphics. The graphics were just fun to do, just something I enjoyed putting together. Anyway, we're talking about personnel debt, but we're talking about the underneath parts of personnel debt. And this is one that I find really interesting. And I don't mean that from the sense of, hey, gosh, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. This is really interesting to me from the broad perspective of what is ultimately the impact of personnel debt. So when we think about personnel debt, right, and we think about what it is that organizations do and don't do in relation to personnel debt, it becomes an interesting problem, right? One of the things, obviously, that many organizations do, and look, I'm not decrying this. I don't think it's a smart business idea because I think it impacts the organization for a long time after they do it. And I don't think that the cost benefits are worth that long-term impact. But the reality is most organizations do a layoff. That's the quick and dirty solution to what appears to be personnel debt. It isn't the answer. It's simply the quick and dirty, right? And sometimes quick and dirty works for a short time. And you have you look at it and you go, oh, well, I was successful. Quick and dirty work. I'm flipping the slides, which is why my fingers are going over to the side. So as we look at this, personnel debt becomes something to consider. It doesn't really have it doesn't really have the loud explosion that other debts do. Security debt has a massive explosion. Technical debt, you see it all the time. Data debt will blow your AI up right away. Personnel debt, you don't necessarily see. Like I said, most organizations take let's do a layoff. Let's try a layoff, solve the problems. Yay, barely. We have solved world hunger. We have solved war. We've solved everything. We did a layoff. It's kind of the business practice that a lot of organizations have done for many years. So it is what it is. It is not, however, a solution to personnel debt. It is simply a pushing the personnel debt issue further down the road because personnel debt enters quietly. And when it's there and you have it and you don't pay attention to it, it ultimately will drive your organization. Personnel debt will drive your organization further than technical debt, data debt, and security debt. Because first of all, personnel debt combined with some security debt, that'll finish your organization off. And boom, you're done. Welcome to the brave new world. You have effectively blown yourself up, right? And that is the sad reality of where many organizations are, right? It's not right. It's not that I'm worried about the smartest person in the room. It's that I don't have the smartest person in the room. It's the missing person. It's the laid off person that ultimately ends up costing you. So that becomes the interesting reality. The next tier below the reality of security debt is the silent catastrophe of a sleep at the switch, right? I have a great, again, you're going to love the graphics when you see them. They're really fun. They're different. They're way different from what I've done in the past. I spent a lot of time with AI building out the graphics because it was fun. And I wanted to build a more comic view of the pain points that people don't see. But when you realize that security has embedded in it the silent catastrophe, you have to worry, right? It's the most misunderstood of the four debts. Everybody knows technical debt. We can argue personnel debt is something that most organizations don't know, but it's known somewhat. It's at least probably, I would say personnel debt is the most studied of the debts. If you look at the books by Jim Collins, Good to Great, and How the Mighty Fail, personnel debt is discussed in there, as well as technical debt, and what do those two mean, right? Ultimately, for an organization, and data debt is pretty. I mean, that's blatantly obvious in the AI world. I mean, I'm sorry if you have a massive data debt problem, your AI is going to fail. I don't care how much you do, your AI is going to fail because AI needs data. And if it doesn't have the relevant data to your organization, and that data isn't good, and that data doesn't have a ground truth, you're dead. So within security debt is this silent catastrophe. You have to be careful. You have to be aware of security debt. But now you have a problem, right? And we are in an interesting age when it comes to security debt right now. We have a lot of really good security people in the world, and we have some really beginning to burgeon and be wonderful automated security tools. But we still have too much human intervention. I'm sorry, but security should be the very first thing that an organization automates. Get as much automated security going as you humanly can, because that is the only way your organization is going to be successful. Hackers are smart. They can automate the attack. Hackers created the concept of a denial of service attack. A denial of service attack is simply an automated botnet attack of a specific DNS space. It's automated. It's structurally automated. So the attackers are already beginning to understand the reality of what it is they need to do using AI to attack. You as an organization have to be ready. You have to be prepared. You have to be using AI to automate a lot of the security tasks. Security cannot be an ivory tower in the organization. It cannot be the be-all and end-all of the organization. If it is, the organization is going to be in trouble, ultimately. Security has to be integrated into the organization. It has to be part of the fabric. We'll talk about fabric later because that's something that comes up late in the book, but it's also something in my other two books. So something that I am very excited to be having and talking about. But anyway, that takes you through this concept of security debt and personnel debt. We've gone through data debt and technical debt. And next week, we'll do one last blast, hopefully with the slides. Now, the slides presentation will be an hour. And I'll share it on my YouTube channel. You'll get my talking track. You'll get the Scottification of it. But that will be probably the last one I do. So this is technically the last of this series. I've gone through the 4 debts. I've gone through the embedded debts. I'm going to start a new series starting next week because I have a bunch of technical reviews I want to do. But that's it for that. I want to thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for participating, and have a wonderful week.